Hi, my name's Neil Wheeler with Waypoint Church Partners, and I want to welcome you to this session of Stepping Out of the Traffic. I've been thinking a whole lot recently about what God may be using this pandemic season for in the lives of ministry leaders. The book of Psalm, chapter 46, verse 10, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." The Message translates that verse of scripture: "Step out of the traffic and take a long, loving look at me." Now, repeatedly in the Gospels, we see Jesus doing just that. In Mark chapter 1, the scripture records a long day of preaching and pastoral care that Jesus did, and it lasted late into the evening. Now, I'm sure that Jesus, just like all of us, had to have been exhausted from the constant demands of his ministry. But the scripture says in Mark 1 and verse 35 something very fascinating. It says, "The next morning, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up and he left the house and he went off to a solitary place." Notice that, solitary place where he prayed. Rather than sleeping in, we notice that Jesus literally stepped out of the traffic of his busy ministry to a secluded spot where he could spend time with our Father. For the past 30 years, I have followed Jesus' example the best that I could by meeting with the Father in my solitary place. And I've learned two dynamics about making that effective. Number one is time. Following Jesus' example, I've rolled out of bed early almost every morning, at least 90% of mornings, early in the morning before anyone else in my house is awake, about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And that means for me to be able to do that, I have to go to bed earlier and get up, set my alarm sometimes, and make a good strong cup of coffee so that I can schedule that time to be with God. There's a second dynamic here, and that is the dynamic of place. For me, I've discovered that it just helps me to be in a similar place morning after morning after morning as I meet with God. That place for me is my quiet place by the fire, place in my living room or on the deck when it gets warmer, so that I can watch the sunrise with God. The tools that I take are very, very simple. I take my Bible, my ink pen, my journal, and that good strong cup of coffee, of course. My cell phone isn't with me. I leave it aside. Neither is the television remote because I find both of those things are very distracting. For the next 45 minutes or so, I pray and I read and I write down what God shares with me from Scripture that day. We'll talk more about journaling next time. Now, why do I do all of that? And why do I do it especially early in the morning? Well, what I have learned is that my soul is just so much better if it gets near to God early in the morning before it's near anyone else. Friend, I promise that God will do exactly the same thing for you. So I just encourage you to begin stepping out of the traffic, finding your solitary place, and begin getting your soul closer to God as you meet Him there. Well, I'll see you next time, and God bless you.